Javier Milei is not convenient for North America, not convenient for the United States, not convenient for Trump, not convenient for corporate power, not convenient at all. And that's the message that people who understand the continent's problems need to have clear. People who don't have a clear understanding of the continent's problems, they don't know the importance of this. The United States is desperately supporting, both economically and politically, an individual, a character who is an amateur in politics, not a professional, and who may technically serve corporate power, but will not serve the geopolitical importance of the problem that the United States is facing and will face with increasing intensity. A beautiful topic for those who have the ability to showcase their insight into the problems this represents. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about our ability not only to recognize the problem, but also to offer alternatives, because recognizing the problem is easy. Finding and coming up with alternatives and the people, the team, the group, or the thinkers who can solve or help with the problem, that's the hard part. But fortunately, Argentina may currently hold the key to solving the problem. What do you think if we talk about this topic? Beautiful. And I also know that with your help, it will be a shared task, easy to accomplish. But of course, this can't be done just like a debt. You need a method, and you need people with the ability to develop those methods. In other words, the problem of the United States is not the problem of a single country, as they are currently approaching it by going from country to country and giving palliatives, aspirin. Here, the problem is a continental project, and if they don't see it, do we see it? We don't see it either if we look at how our countries behave, getting desperate, fighting among themselves. The problem of drug trafficking, the problem of poverty, the problem of crime, the problem is immense. It's inconceivable that in countries with so much wealth, there are so many problems of every kind. And so those who really should not only have the idea, because as we said before, anyone can have an idea, but how do you put that idea into practice? And of course, to put the idea into practice, you need leaders with crystal clear vision who rise above the pettiness that we all have as human beings. Egocentrism, pride, vanity, ignorance, lack of knowledge. There are people who have never left the borders of their own country and want to solve the world's problems. There are people working in politics with great responsibilities who have never left their country's borders, who have no idea what's happening in the world. The interests of the world today are different from those of 50 or 100 years ago. And so those interests fight relentlessly to keep increasing their value and their wealth. And that continues to be, with ever greater intensity, the serious problem that causes misfortune. In other words, while the Chinese are quietly advancing, gaining positions on the continent, the United States is trying to solve the problem individually by putting band-aids on each country with loans, swaps, and so on, everything they do. And that doesn't add anything. It's a grand strategic movement, apparently ideological on all fronts, but it's not effective. Because, for example, going back to Argentina, they are stubbornly determined to support Milei. And Milei is a dead man walking over there. In other words, the little credibility the man had managed to gain is gone because he has no substance. And so the United States wants to keep him in place until the elections. And they don't know how to do it. And Milei is not in danger. If our interests, all of ours, are not in danger, then the power of the corporations is not in danger either. All of us on the continent are at risk. Because we have no strength, we cannot be partners with the United States. We cannot be partners with the United States if in people's minds we are seen as nobodies, in the mindset of the global reality. What do you think if we propose, let's take as an example, I don't believe we can solve the problem of Argentina or any other country individually or by being for or against, whether it's about solving the problem of the great monster, which is the silent occupation, quietly looms. That China is carrying out. Our people, in their desperation, the politicians, well, they want to grab onto any alternative. The bricks and the coat. In short, a bunch of alternatives. The left that still resists trying to survive. The leftists, poor things, have suffered the biggest disappointments. Communism and all the experiments they've tried. They have produced the misfortune we have now. They have increased the misfortune with the issue of the left. One important thing is to actively seek a deeper understanding and to promote a social order within societies in order to avoid the imbalance that currently exists. I mean, such imbalance can truly dehumanize those in power. And so that creates antagonism and breeds hatred, resistance. Today, if you ask the vast majority of the continent about forming an alliance with the United States, they say, no, with them we've had enough. Look at how they've left us. And we can't deny it. So how can we fix that? Because we all fall, we all go down together. So this issue is very important to address. We're not going to say that we're going to solve it either, but rather that we're trying to provide some guidance and to ask, well, who could be the person or the people or the group or the thinkers who could fulfill a purpose? And what is the purpose? You might ask me, what is the purpose? A project that includes the integration of all interests, the interests of potential economic and financial power. The corporate power and the necessary power for the survival of humanity, the vast majority of us, 1.6 billion people in Latin America, flooded with wealth, unexplored, still untapped, enough to sustain happiness, joy, and abundance for thousands of years. And we are struggling because we are in the hands of 20 corporations. And 1.6 billion people are opening their doors to the Chinese. Come, come, come. Save us, please, save us. Save us from the Chinese. Save us, not from the Chinese. No, save us from North America. Save us from the United States. And the United States still hasn't understood what the problem is, and that's why they haven't even had the slightest idea how to solve it. And here the issue is to look at who could be the pillars to create an alternative and offer it to the United States, not to wait for the United States to bring projects, because they will always be the same ones. And those are Brazil, which is the most powerful country in Latin America, with potential in every technological and social aspect. Population size, economic potential. Mexico, a country on the move, dynamic, a partner and neighbor of the United States, and Argentina, which is in the south of the continent. It's a triangle, an extraordinary axis to involve the entire continent, Central and South America. But a project is needed. And the leaders are Lula, who has already been courted by the Chinese, the BRICS and all that. The man is already looking for an alternative. Mexico, which they have confronted and are punishing unnecessarily. Instead of supporting Mexico, the United States government is basically keeping score against it, counting the cards there. And Argentina, well, they're trying to keep a dead man alive, trying to support or prop up Milei, who doesn't represent the true value of that country, ideologically speaking. An extraordinary resource to offer the United States. The United States has already done it and had excellent results with Peronism. So now we have a vision of what can be done. The United States desperately needs a partner throughout Latin America, not just country by country like our divided nation. it needs to bring together to achieve, and the Latin American unity is not going to be accomplished by us because they won't allow it. We know that. The only entity, the only legal entity with the potential to achieve Latin American unity is the United States. But it's not just to benefit the United States, it's to benefit the entire continent in the face of the aggression that's already on the horizon, the tsunami. So let's start with one country to begin the conversation and say, well, let's coordinate. Milei, Argentina, Milei has no useful life left. Yes, it may have a useful life for short-term financial speculation, but in the long run, it's increasingly at risk. It's at risk. In other words, it doesn't have one. Now, is it solvent? There's Peronism. Who belongs to Peronism? Who do we talk to? And no, they're all divided. Do Argentinians know this? Yes, they know it. Do they accept it? No. We are Peronists, but each person, each leader has their own personal territory. He disparages others. So who can have the one with the greatest attraction? Cristina Kirchner. You need to speak clearly, Cristina. He has just met with Kicillof, the governor of the province of Buenos Aires. Moreno should have been at that meeting. But what are they meeting for? They need to create a project and support it with reality, not with the fantasy of trying to please the union leaders who have been sitting in their armchairs for 50, 70 years, and to bring in the little local corporate and financial power. Local ones who are rent seekers, not entrepreneurs. There are no business investors who put in their own capital. When they make capital, they take it out of the country. Those rent-seeking people can't be partners with the government because the government has no projects. On the contrary, they have a project and they tell the government what it has to do. So the only person who can offer a concrete project to the United States to start building the Continental Project is Cristina, Guillermo Moreno, and Alex Zilo. They can sit down to create a project, and that is what will automatically generate national unity. And that has the potential to extend throughout Latin America with the communication power prepared for that purpose, not to hand over the country as is happening now, tomorrow, or the day after, or maybe it already happened yesterday, I don't know, to one of those who run Milei's economy. Negotiate what? What guarantees does it offer the United States for the next 20 years in the face of an enemy that is already declared and obvious? All those things need someone to say them and to take the risk and not be looking for anything here to see if they search, if they find something. Go ahead, search, look into my past, go ahead. I'm nobody, I'm just a voice. Alone, but a voice nonetheless. So it's very important that someone speaks up. Milei is of no use to the United States. It's no good for the United States to have puppets in charge of responsibility because it's a sieve for the entry of the Chinese. Wasting time fighting with Maduro, wasting time fighting with the one from Colombia, wasting time fighting with Lula. That's antagonistic. That truth is unreal. So here in the United States, here where we are, where I am now, they should reconsider that. And someone has to say it. And someone has to say it and show that it's possible to change the mindset, to create a great continental partnership to strengthen ourselves. And then we won't fight with the Chinese, but instead negotiate all together, negotiate the United States and everyone. We are the continent that negotiates with the hegemonic powers of Asia. Is that being considered? No, they think about corporate power individually, and that's what's happening to us now. The day Latin Americans realize that to negotiate with the United States, you need to have a plan. Otherwise, they impose their corporate power, what they design to their own liking and for their own interests, when Latin America needs to understand that a joint project is what these people accept. And when they realize that only if a project comes to the United States from Latin America is it because they are truly talking about their problems, and all the countries sit at the table to negotiate. Not ideals, not the left, not the right, not the extremes, not the government of negotiating interest in the face of a problem that has not been resolved and is only getting worse. And we are losing the continent. So the day the United States understands that Latin America exists and that it needs to listen to them will be the day that we present the United States with unity, with a project. But we can't do it together. We have to do it individually in each of our countries. Our countries need to harmonize internally and offer a project that is conditioned on the interests of total and absolute defense. Not just defense, not looking for how to solve my own problem and that of my friends, but the problem of all my brothers who are 160 million inhabitants. No one has presented a project to the U.S. for 160 million people because we are all disunited like a bag of cats. For 200 years, the English designed this geopolitical structure that we suffer from, which is right here. What do you think? So we have to solve our own issues. And for that, we need our natural leaders. And we have to start setting an example in order to begin achieving our goals. And that from the United States, they don't see us as their enemies and label us as communists or leftists. We are in the same boat. This continent is a boat, and we are going to lose it because of stubbornness. Because of a select minority that doesn't even make up 1% of the population of the entire continent. Anyway, I wanted to give this speech today with one idea in mind. My law, to begin with, does not serve the interests of the United States, but Argentines have not made that clear yet, because we Argentines are caught up in trivial matters. We're provincial. When it comes to continental geopolitics, Cristina, you have the floor. Moreno, you have the floor. Kicillof, you have the floor. Raul, you all go ahead tomorrow. Today it is possible. Call each other on the phone right now. Let someone proactive get this idea to them. Improve it. But start working towards a concrete project so that it is respected and so that the United States stops wasting time trying to keep a dead man walking like this guy. This man neither promises nor guarantees anything to the United States for the future. And we're all at risk. We are in a state of emergency. Anyway, I'll leave you with this because I know your intelligence and ability surpass mine. And that's wonderful because it means we're facing an extraordinary situation, and it's a challenge we all have to solve together. And surely we are going to achieve it. See you anytime.